I'm going to say 10 words, and then you can just stop this episode because you're going to know pretty much everything you need to know about my favorite formula for personal finance. But if you want to get maybe a little more technical, dive deeper, figure out how to apply these 10 words to yourself, then listen to the whole episode. Here are the 10 words. A portion of all you earn is yours to keep. Count the words with me. You can tell I've got a toddler right now. A portion of all you earn is yours to keep. 10 words. And if you follow those simple words and you set aside a portion, whether it's 1% or 100% or somewhere in between, and you make sure you keep it. It's not at risk of market loss, fees, or taxation, and you're keeping access to it. You can use it when it's needed. From what I've seen in the stats, you're going to do way better financially than the majority of Americans. But you don't want to just do a little bit better. You want to do a lot. So this area of focusing on setting aside a portion of all you earn and keeping it safe and accessible is actually my area of specialty within the financial world. And when people are looking to do better than just the average American, the biggest question I get asked is how big that portion should be. Today, I want to share some thoughts about how to answer that question for yourself. Fill in a formula with your own personal numbers and decide how much you want to be setting aside for yourself, right? So welcome to the FIFE Movement. I'm your host, Amanda Neely. This is the only movement that helps our generation create our unique feminine and entrepreneurial path to financial independence. Now, what I'm about to share is an ideal. No one ever does the ideal. In fact, I myself started far from the ideal, have danced around it, and finally in my mid-30s have figured out how to maybe be close to the ideal and make it work for me and my family. So before I share my screen and show you this beautiful spreadsheet I put together, know that the formula represents an intentional journey. The biggest thing I can say is that the sooner you start walking this intentional journey, the sooner you'll reach your unique destination, your unique definition of financial independence or wherever you're going. So here's the basic idea of the formula. Your income can really only go a few places, and you just define each place by a percentage. So you have your income that's equal to a percentage that you're giving toward giving, a percentage toward long-term savings, a percentage toward medium-term savings, and a percentage toward annual expenses, and a percentage toward basic living expenses like on a monthly basis, and can't forget about it, one of the most important parts, a percentage towards fun. Now, if there is debt, that can be included in this formula as well. I usually put it into the basic living expenses because debt is typically paying for past living, and it's payments are happening on a monthly basis. But it's also possible to use some of that long-term savings, some of that medium-term savings to pay off debt responsibly, as long as you add a formula within the formula. So we're going to look at that basics today. We might have to do a deeper dive into it in a future episode. But that formula goes something like this. Long-term plus medium-term savings equals a portion that's safe and accessible and a portion that's at risk and or locked away. And then the portion that's safe and accessible might be used to pay extra on your debt. Okay, so that's the high level overview. That's really hard to understand unless you see it, especially if you're a visual learner like me. So I want to share a spreadsheet with you. I need to share my screen so that you can see this. This is something I put together based on different things that I've learned. So let's just say under this example, that your income is $5,000. And you would go through and you'd fill in each of these areas of where your income can go. And you'd put a percentage here for what percentage can go to which area. Yours will look totally different than this, but this is kind of just an example for you. So if you were tithing, say 10%, you'd have 500 of your income going there. And I kept this what's left because you ultimately want to be at zero here. And once you fill in the giving, the long-term savings, the medium-term savings, some of those annualized expenses like vacations, the holidays, if maybe you pay your insurance or property taxes only a couple times a year, something like that. Basic living expenses, those are your weekly or monthly things that are always happening, groceries, gas in the car, electric bill, rent or mortgage. And then fun auto calculates. So if this ends up being 60%, fun becomes 0. I tried to set it up that way. So you just fill in these five, and then fun fills in itself. And you know, after you do these things and you're being responsible with saving, you're embracing your true expenses by accounting for the annual things, right? And doing this percentage wise can be really helpful. So, because then you see, okay, I have only $2,750 for my basic living. How do I make my life work with that, right? And you might not change overnight, but by asking that question, you start to see ways to make it work. And then down here, this copies your long-term and medium-term savings and adds them up. And then you're going to do the same kind of thing where you say, here's how much I want safe and accessible to use for the things of life, right? Buy a new car, do a home repair, like a new roof, pay for kids' college, whatever kind of things you think are going to happen. And then at risk and or locked away might be the money that you don't really need right now. You probably won't need over the next 30 years or however long you have until retirement. And so you can put it here and use it later on. And so maybe it's fun money that you're playing with on the market, or maybe it's money that you want to keep where you can't touch it without penalty. So that goes here. And then you'll notice there's this other one down here where what you could do is say from the safe and accessible bucket, you want to make additional payments to your debt to knock that off. You might say, I don't want to use 100% of that. I might only want to use a certain percent so that I still have an emergency fund. I still can buy that car or, do that home repair or whatever those medium term things that you're saving for are. So you might put 50% in there, say, and then this would tell you, here's how much to throw extra onto your debt above your minimum payments each month. And of course, you'd have to access that safe and accessible funds in order to do that. And again, I need to do a deep dive on how that looks like, but wanted to just give you the idea today. So I made this spreadsheet an extra download for today's episode. So if you're listening to this on the podcast version, be sure to check the show notes so that you can see what this looks like as well. And if you're catching this on YouTube, you're seeing it on the screen, but you might want to come over here and play around with some numbers. So you'd fill in your income. You would do your ideal just for fun. What do you want to have happen, right? And then, so you're only going to fill in these yellow parts and the rest is going to fill in. So this is a number. The rest of these yellows are going to be percentages, and you're just going to think in percentages. So you can do your ideal, you can do your actual, right? You can save multiple copies of this and have fun with it to see what it is you want to do. Now, a couple more tips here. I'm going to stop the screen share. Please get that download. I think you'll find it really helpful as you play around with it a little bit. But the fun thing is that you can totally start this adventure with 0 in every category except for basic living expenses. And then you can make it a game to shift 1% to what's most important. For example, you might shift 1% to annual expenses so you're less caught off guard when the holidays arrive or when you need to do winter car maintenance. But the trick here, the biggest mistake you can make is to jump in too quickly. Don't do that. Shift 1% at a time. Just like healthy living, you don't start a fitness routine by running a marathon. You start with where you are. And maybe you start with just a simple walk around the block, right? Walking is the equivalent of a 1% shift. And then as you walk, you can walk farther. You can maybe start jogging. You can throw on some weights, but you don't do all of that at once. You shift a little bit at a time. And this is like shifting another 1%. So where do you start? First, you figure out what you're currently doing. If you're a 30-something and you have 3% going into your 401k, that's going into long-term savings category, and then it's going into the at-risk and or locked away category. If you're socking away $10 a month in a shoebox in your home, right? That's going in for holiday gifts or something, that 10% goes into annualized expenses because you are planning to spend it within a year or so. Then you start to dream about what a 1% shift would look like and what you want to do first. Do you want 1% more for fun? Do you want 1% more for medium-term savings because you're going to want like a new car in a few years? What if you focused on growing your income so that all the categories grew, even in number, even if your percentage doesn't change, if it stays the same? That's the fun, I think, of having a percentage-based formula like this. And if you think this is an interesting approach, wait until the next episode when I'm going to show you a similar formula for the business side of your financial life. Thanks for joining me and connecting with the FIFE movement. As you go about your day, remember, wealth is coming your way. Your quest is to prepare for using it well. For more tips on how to prepare, be sure to hit that subscribe button. And to connect with the community and further your journey, visit fifemovement.com. If my gift has helped you today, please pay the gift forward by sharing this content with a friend. My gratitude in advance. To help this video be seen by more people, please hit the like button, and we invite your feedback in the comments as well.